The Galactic Council's meeting hall floated like a giant silver disk above the dead star Seraphis 9. From the windows, the remains of the collapsed star glowed faintly, casting a cold light on the tense gathering inside. Leaders from hundreds of alien worlds sat around a wide circular table. Their voices, usually full of pride or argument, were quiet today. Fear hung heavy in the air. At the center of it all, Chancellor Voryx stood tall. His skin was a pale gray, and his long arms moved sharply as he spoke. "Humanity has gone silent," Voryx said, his voice booming. "No messages, no ships, no trade. Nothing for months. We must not be fooled. This is not peace, it is preparation." The council members murmured. Some agreed. Others looked uneasy. Mira Vance sat in one of the lower seats, listening carefully. She was human, one of the few allowed to stay after Earth joined the council centuries ago. Her job was to study human culture and behavior, to help the council understand her people. But now, even she had no answers. Mira raised her hand. "Chancellor, humanity has always been unpredictable, yes, but they never believed in surprise attacks without warning. Maybe this silence is something else." Voryx's narrow eyes turned to her. "And what do you suggest, Analyst Vance? That they are on a vacation? Or perhaps, evolving weapons beyond our imagination?" Some members chuckled nervously. Others stared at Mira with suspicion. "I suggest," Mira said calmly, "that we investigate before we assume the worst. Fear has started more wars than weapons have." Voryx slammed a long hand onto the table. "We cannot wait. If we wait, it may be the end of us all." The council members shifted in their seats. Some nodded, some hesitated. The tension grew thicker. Mira felt a cold weight settle in her chest. She knew humans could be chaotic, emotional, and stubborn. But she also knew they were dreamers and builders. They did not just disappear. Something bigger was happening, something no one here understood yet. The meeting ended with no clear decision. Voryx would continue pushing for military action. Mira would continue searching for answers. As she walked back to her small quarters, Mira looked out a window at the endless stars. Somewhere out there, humanity had gone silent, and the galaxy, for the first time in a long while, felt truly afraid. She promised herself she would find the truth before fear destroyed everything. Mira sat at her desk in the dim light of her quarters. The hum of the station's engines was the only sound. In front of her, dozens of transmission logs flickered across her screen, the last signals Earth had sent before the silence began. Most were normal. Trade updates, research reports, family messages, but then they stopped. The final transmissions were strange, distorted, broken, like someone speaking underwater. Mira played the last clear message again. "This is Outpost 17, requesting confirmation. Systems failing. Seeing lights." The message cut off sharply, replaced by a low buzzing noise. Mira leaned back, frowning. It didn't sound like an attack. It sounded like something was happening that no one understood. She tapped a few commands into her terminal. New reports filled the screen. Freighters arriving at abandoned human colonies. No signs of violence. No bodies. Just emptiness. One report mentioned a cargo ship. The Farwind found drifting near the edge of human space. All systems dead. Crew missing. No signs of struggle. The word ghost ship was being whispered through the council halls. Mira closed her eyes, thinking hard. If humanity had been attacked, there would be signs, wreckage, battles, distress signals. But there was nothing. It was as if humans had simply walked away from their world and vanished into thin air. Her communicator beeped. "Analyst Vance," a voice said, soft but urgent. It was Eno Tal, a council aide Mira trusted. "You need to see this." Mira hurried to a small meeting room deep inside the station. Eno, a short being with glistening green skin, waited with a datapad in his hands. "This just came in," he said. "We picked up a private transmission. It was flagged because it came from a human research station near a dead wormhole." Mira's heart raced. A research station? "I thought all human installations were silent." "All official ones," Eno said. This one was off the records, maybe even secret from the council. Mira scanned the transmission. It was barely a whisper through the noise, but one word stood out. Threshold. What is Project Threshold? Mira asked. Eno shook his head. We don't know, but whatever it was important enough to keep hidden. Mira looked at the coordinates attached to the signal. It was far, deep in what used to be human space, near a collapsed wormhole that few dared to approach. If she wanted answers, she had to go there. But she also knew time was running out. Voryx's forces were already gathering. If the Council decided humanity was a threat, they would destroy everything linked to them, even innocent colonies. Mira made her choice. She would go to the hidden station. She would find the truth. Before the galaxy chose fear over reason. The journey to the hidden station was dangerous. Mira boarded a small scout ship, the Sparrow, with only basic supplies and an old pilot she trusted, Captain Wren. He was a gruff man, with gray hair and quick eyes, a veteran of the old Earth Wars. As the Sparrow slipped away from the Council station, Mira felt a knot of fear in her stomach. If they were caught, Voryx would accuse her of treason. But staying behind and doing nothing would be worse. The ship raced through empty space. The stars stretched into long, thin lines as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. Outside the main travel lanes, space felt colder, emptier. After 2 days of travel, they neared the collapsed wormhole. It looked like a massive tear in the sky, a dark hole surrounded by swirling faint light. No one dared come close anymore. Ships that wandered too near sometimes disappeared without a trace. Floating nearby was the hidden human research station, almost invisible against the blackness. It was small, shaped like a metal flower with broken petals. This place gives me a bad feeling, Captain Wren muttered, steering the ship closer. Mira nodded. She felt it too. A heavy pressure in the air, like the station itself was holding its breath. They docked with a soft click. The airlock opened with a slow hiss. Inside, the station was dark. Emergency lights flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. Everything was coated in a thin layer of dust, as if no one had moved here in weeks. Mira led the way with a handheld scanner. No signs of life, she said quietly. Only silence answered her. They found the control room after a short walk down a narrow corridor. The doors creaked as they opened. Inside, the walls were lined with screens and panels. Most were dead, but in the center of the room, one console still glowed faintly, showing a single word: threshold. Mira rushed forward. She connected her scanner and pulled up the files. Hundreds of reports, research logs, and personal journals filled the screen. The project had been highly secret, even among humans. Its goal not war, not weapons, but evolution. According to the logs, Earth's best minds had been working on a way to move humanity beyond physical existence. They believed the universe was just one layer of reality, and they wanted to break through to the next. The last entry was from Dr. Alara Miles, the lead scientist. Threshold is ready. Today humanity steps beyond the stars, beyond the flesh. If this is heard, no, we did not flee. We grew. Mira stared at the words, her heart pounding. Humanity hadn't disappeared out of fear or defeat. They had moved forward, into something greater than any of them could understand. Captain Wren whistled softly. You mean they left this universe? It looks that way, Mira whispered. But before they could process the full meaning, an alarm blared through the station. Mira checked the scanner. A ship was approaching, fast, and not just any ship. One of Voryx's patrols. They found us, Mira said, grabbing the data core from the console. They had the truth. Now they had to survive long enough to share it. The station shook as the patrol ship locked onto it. Red warning lights flashed down the halls. Mira tightened her grip on the data core and turned to Captain Wren. We have to move. Now, she said. They sprinted back through the dark corridors. Behind them they could hear the thuds of boarding teams cutting through the station's outer walls. Voryx's soldiers were coming fast. Mira and Wren reached the Sparrow just as the first blasts echoed behind them. The old ship's engines groaned as Wren powered them up. Hang on, he yelled. The ship pulled free from the station with a jolt, spinning into open space. Lasers fired from the patrol ship, slicing the darkness with deadly light. Ren dodged and weaved through the fire, the small ship much faster than their pursuers. Mira strapped herself in and opened a secure channel. She tried to send a message back to the council station, anything to warn them. But Vorix's patrol had jammed communications. "We're on our own," she said grimly. The chase dragged on across empty space. Finally, after a risky dive into a dense asteroid belt, the Sparrow lost the patrol. Both Mira and Ren sat in silence, breathing hard. Slowly, Mira placed the data core on the console between them. She opened the files again and studied them carefully. There was no doubt now. Project Threshold had been humanity's greatest ambition. The scientists believed that existence had many layers, like an onion. Most life only existed on the first layer, the physical world. But with enough energy, thought, and unity, they could tear through the thin walls between layers and step into a higher existence. It had taken decades. Quiet work in hidden labs, careful preparations. And finally, they had done it. The last experiments had been successful. Cities, colonies, even entire planets had shifted into another dimension. It wasn't an attack or a surrender. It was something else. Something no other species had ever even dreamed of. "They didn't die," Mira said softly. "They evolved." Captain Ren looked at her, his face serious. "And you think the council will believe this?" Mira hesitated. No, she thought. Not easily. Vorix had already planted fear into the council's mind. To them, humanity's silence looked like a threat, proof of betrayal. If she showed them this truth without evidence, they would think it was a trick. But she had the data, and she had to try. "Get us back to the council," Mira said. "Fast." Ren nodded and plotted a course. Outside the ship, the dead stars drifted past, silent witnesses to humanity's greatest secret. Inside, Mira felt a mix of hope and fear. Hope that the truth could save what little trust remained. Fear that it might already be too late. The journey back to the council station was tense and quiet. Mira sat in the co-pilot seat, her fingers tapping nervously on the armrest. The data core rested securely in her pack, the last piece of proof that humanity hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They had transcended it. Captain Ren kept the ship steady, avoiding known patrol routes. He knew Vorix's forces were everywhere now, tightening their control. When the Sparrow finally reached the outer perimeter of the council station, Mira felt a wave of relief. But it didn't last long. "This is Patrol Unit Alpha 7. A voice crackled over the comms. "Identify yourself and prepare for boarding." "They're looking for us," Ren muttered. Mira quickly thought of a plan. She activated an old clearance code she still had from her analyst days. It was risky. If it didn't work, they would be captured immediately. "Transmitting diplomatic clearance," she said over the comms. There was a long pause. Then the patrol ship backed off. "Clearance accepted. Proceed." Mira exhaled sharply. They weren't safe yet, but they had bought themselves a little time. Once inside the station, Mira and Ren moved quickly through the halls. They couldn't go to the council chamber directly. Vorix would have guards watching. Instead, they made their way to a hidden maintenance sector where Mira had allies. Tal, the council aide who had helped her before, met them in a dark storage room. "You're lucky you made it back," Eno whispered. "Vorix has been preparing for a full vote to declare humanity an enemy of the galaxy. Troops are already moving toward human colonies." Mira felt a cold anger rising inside her. "If the council hears the truth, they might stop him," she said. Eno shook his head. "Vorix has spread fear like a poison. He claims you stole information to help humanity hide a secret weapon." Mira clenched her fists. Lies. Twisted lies. All to strengthen Vorix's control. "We have to get this data in front of the full council," Mira said. "Not just to a few members. Everyone must see it." Eno hesitated, then nodded. "There's a council-wide broadcast scheduled tomorrow. Vorix plans to declare war during it. If you can get into the broadcast room before him, you can show the truth." Mira's heart pounded. It was risky. Vorix would try to stop her, but this was her only chance. "Then that's what we'll do," she said firmly. Captain Wren gave a small, proud smile. About time we caused some trouble. Together they began planning the infiltration. As Mira sat down to study the Council's security layouts, she thought of Earth, of the families, scientists, and dreamers who had chosen a future no one else had imagined. She thought of what was at stake if fear won. She would not let that happen, not without a fight. The Council broadcast room was deep inside the station, guarded by 2 heavily armed patrols. Mira, Captain Wren, and Ano moved carefully through maintenance tunnels. The old metal walls were narrow and cold, and every sound echoed too loudly. Mira clutched the data core tightly. Everything depended on getting it to the right place at the right time. At the last service hatch, they stopped. "This is it," Ano whispered. "Once you go in, you'll be live across the whole Council. Billions of beings will hear you." Mira nodded. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. She had no choice now. Captain Wren handed her a small device. "This will override the broadcast feed for 5 minutes. After that they'll cut you off." 5 minutes is enough," Mira said. She climbed through the hatch and into a side hall near the broadcast room. Voices echoed down the corridor. Vorax was already inside, preparing his speech. Mira moved quickly, her heart pounding in her ears. She reached the control booth and plugged the override device into the main console. A soft beep told her it was working. The screens across the station flickered. In the council hall, thousands of leaders from across the galaxy turned toward the giant display. Instead of Vorax, they saw Mira Vance. She stood tall, the data core in her hands. "This is Mira Vance, Galactic Cultural Analyst," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I come with the truth about humanity's silence." Behind her she played the final logs from the hidden station. "Dr. Alara." Miles' voice filled the hall. "Threshold is ready. Today humanity steps beyond the stars, beyond the flesh. If this is heard, know we did not flee. We grew." Images appeared on the screens. Scientists working together, energy fields surrounding entire cities, and finally a brilliant flash as the human colonies disappeared into another dimension. Mira looked directly into the camera. Humanity did not abandon the galaxy. They have evolved to a higher existence. They are not hiding. They are not planning war. They are gone by their own choice. The hall was silent. Then Vorax stormed into the broadcast room, his face twisted in rage. "Shut it down," he roared. Guards rushed toward Mira, but it was too late. The message had been delivered. The council leaders began shouting, not in anger at humanity, but at Vorax, demanding explanations, demanding his removal. Security forces loyal to the council moved in and arrested Vorax for abuse of power and spreading false fear. Mira stepped back as the transmission ended. She was exhausted, but she allowed herself a small, tired smile. The truth had survived. The galaxy had a chance to move forward without fear. The council station was different now. Gone were the tight patrols and whispered rumors. The halls were open again, filled with cautious hope. Mira walked slowly across the wide observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. She carried no scanner, no weapons, only her thoughts. Chancellor Vorax had been removed from power. His lies and fear had been exposed for all to see. New leadership had been chosen, voices who spoke of trust and understanding, not control. But Mira knew the work wasn't finished. Humanity was still gone. No one could reach them. The colonies were empty shells, their cities silent. Their old transmissions faded into static. The galaxy struggled to understand it. Some called it ascension, others, abandonment. A few believed humanity would return one day, changed beyond recognition. Mira didn't know the full truth either, but she believed one thing for certain. Humanity had not left out of fear. They had reached for something greater, something no one else had dared to imagine. She leaned against the railing and looked out into the void. Behind her, Eno Tal approached quietly. "We picked up something," he said, handing her a small datapad. Mira took it and played the recording. It was faint, almost lost in the background noise of the universe. But it was there. A slow rhythmic signal. Not random noise. A pattern. Mira listened carefully. The sound was strange, layered and beautiful. Not a distress call. Not a warning. A message. Or maybe a greeting. Tears filled her eyes as she realized what it meant. Humanity was still out there, somewhere beyond the stars, sending echoes back to the ones they left behind. "Thank you," she whispered. Not to Eno, but to the sky itself. Captain Wren joined them, a rare soft smile on his face. "So," he said, "think they'll come back?" Mira smiled too, a small hopeful smile. "Maybe not as we remember," she said. "Maybe something even better." The stars shimmered outside, silent and endless. But Mira no longer felt alone. Humanity had not vanished. They had simply moved on to places the galaxy could not yet follow. And maybe one day they would meet again.